Taylor, Kyle's, John Zannis here for a Patriots postgame. We woke up early for this. Yes, we did, and it wasn't early. I mean, for some people, but look, this is tough. Taylor and I were talking a little bit offline, and we're trying to keep, all of the good stuff for the show. We want to hear your thoughts. I think my head's spinning in terms of direction, of where to go with this game, because generally speaking, and my take, I'm not invested in this season, Taylor. The wins and losses don't matter. You are looking for progress, and you're looking for primarily, I think the number one thing that's most important is to see whether or not you have a franchise quarterback. And so what's so interesting about this game is after the first couple of drives, it wasn't just that the Patriots took a 10-0 lead. It was that Drake Maye looked every bit the part of the type of person you hope he can be down the road, not even is right now in his second NFL start. Total poise, total command, accuracy on the intermediate throws, getting through his progressions, feeling the pressure when he needed to. Everything was terrific in such an arrow pointing up sort of way. I wish we could have a graph of like the emotion of Patriots fans from that point till now and what you're feeling, because it's hard for me to knock Drake Maye off the front page as the lead of anything we talk about regarding this team, because I think it's so far and away the most important thing. But this was, and you and I talked about it offline, a demoralizing, almost Dallas 2023 sort of feel to the hopelessness you feel, because while as a Patriots fan, you may at this moment say, hey, we might have got something with this kid. Now you're looking around and you're seeing that almost literally every other thing is broken beyond repair and beyond the point that you can fix it with a draft, with an offseason, with whatever. And it's depressing, I think. And that's what people are kind of feeling right now. And so we'll start with the area I want you to start with. And yes, I'm going to start with defense because I can't believe I'm doing it. I don't think that's where the game was lost. I have different opinions on this, but it's impossible not to look at what just happened here and come away with the conclusion that the Patriots just got absolutely bullied and manhandled by one of the worst teams in football. And that's the feeling you're going to feel when you wake up tomorrow and like, oh, Jacksonville just shoved it down our freaking throats. And that's what happened. Anyway, welcome in everybody as well here. That's my little opening rant and tirade. And let's hear from the expert here on what the F happened, man.
And we don't even get the mercy of like, it's a night game. So it's just like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to go to sleep. It's a morning game. We have the whole rest of the day to just be like, what the hell did I just watch? And you said you'd love to see a graph that shows how Patriots fans felt throughout the game. I'll actually show you exactly how Patriots fans felt throughout the game. This is how they felt. You start off like, oh, wait, we're cooking. Oh, damn. Are we actually good? Are we back? And then we were grabbed from the clutches of we're back and just dragged down to the eternal depths of, oh, no, we might be effed right now. And this is exactly, I think, how that felt. So a little visual demonstration there from Tay. If I can figure out how to get that off. But, yeah, I mean, you're right. The defense didn't lose this game. And I even tweeted at the end, I almost wanted to give them partial credit, the team overall, because they didn't quit. Like the Patriots finally put the scoring drive together where you thought kind of like the 49ers game where it felt hopeless and then they actually get a stop and a score. So you're like, maybe they can come back. But at the end of the day, when you are already facing a big halftime deficit and then the other team comes out and says, we're going to run the ball right down your throat and you're not going to stop us, that is a complete tone setter. Because we were talking about it, there is no worse way to lose in any sport than being in football, being behind, knowing you need to come back, and the offense on the other side of the ball just runs it right up the gut every play. It's literally like getting punched in the face in boxing, except in boxing, if you're exhausted and can't take it anymore, they'll at least tap out and the match is over. In football, they're just going to keep doing it until the game is over. And the earlier that halftime lead sets in, the worse it's going to be. And that was the biggest takeaway for me because offensively, they made too many mistakes. Like the Hunter Henry penalty was egregious. The Pop Douglas penalty was stupid. I don't know what they were looking at because when I looked at the replay, it's like he didn't go upfield. So what are you looking at? But either way, like the offense had its issues. But you're also on your seventh offensive line combination, and then Layden Robinson gets hurt. I think that partially affected the ground game, although that was unacceptable that they couldn't get that going. But again, it's a different rotation. I have some level of, empathy for what they're going through there. Demario Douglas is sick. That's your most dynamic player. And Drake Maye's in a tough position because although you had the early lead, things very quickly got out of hand because the defense gives up a score. Touchdown. And then immediately after you go 3 and out, and then the special teams gives up a touchdown. But really the defense for me, it's you have that second quarter where it's completely abysmal. That's where they start running on you. That's where they even have some success passing on the second level of your defense. But then really that second half where they couldn't get off the field, just draining the time off the clock. The Patriots, again, did get a touchdown drive together, which is one of the few bright spots where it's, Drake Maye's a baller. But even Drake Maye had, I would say, 3 or 4 turnover-worthy plays in this game where it's not
two obvious ones, but yeah.
Yeah, like there's the one that he threw right before the touchdown where it should have gone right into a defender's hands. Yeah. The one that he had off schedule that he tried to pop to Hunter Henry that also looked like it might have gone through defender's hands. Like the rookie wasn't perfect, but at least he showed you some promise. But I got to credit the defense because you forced a field goal, turnover on downs, and a punt. And then the touchdown was at the end of the game when you're already destroyed. Like I do want to give them some partial credit for that. You're not giving up touchdowns, but we're talking about drives in the second half. 12 plays for 67 yards, 5 minutes and 18 seconds. 17 plays, 84 drives, 11:24 off the clock. Then when you desperately need the ball back after the touchdown, 8 plays, 26 yards, 4 minutes, 24 seconds. Doesn't sound terrible, but the Patriots were in a position where they desperately needed a 3 and out or some kind of quick stop and couldn't get it. So that's really the biggest gripe I have is the Patriots' strength has always been their run defense. I understand the injuries, not having Juwan Bentley, not having Christian Barmore. Those are huge. But I'm also seeing guys like Jelani Tavai getting blown off the ball or not in the gaps where it looks like they're supposed to be. And that's the part that really doesn't sit well with me is this second level is completely vulnerable. And then the front level, actually, the defensive line, it's hard to know who it was on each given play, but they're getting driven off the ball. And you're seeing like the running back gets the carry, and the Patriots defensive line is like 1 or 2 yards off already. So that's the part that really bothers me.
So
it's in a tough spot, but the defense could not get off the field.
So that's the thing is like, so, and this is where the only place where we differ is that's the observation that got bullied up front, got destroyed, at the point of attack and the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. And that's going to kill you. But the reason that doesn't bother me as much is, a lot of times that's simply just straight up personnel. They had bigger, tougher, badder people, sadly, who just pushed your replacement level or worse people around. And you have guys, you're mixing and matching in the linebacker core. You're not really sure what you're going to do there. You're obviously down, multiple people, across both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. That's creating an environment where, you lack some of you lack the personnel to be able to do what you want to do all the time. So you have to get smart. You have to get creative. You have to take advantage of what works, and you have to be quick and abandon what doesn't work. And so I'm going to kind of keep coming back to, I know scripted first drives oftentimes are the best looking drives that any team is going to have an entire game. And, and the Patriots had a really good one in the first. And I believe they only ran the ball a couple of times in that first drive. And they did some really smart things, and Drake Maye was on time and he looked like he had command and he did everything right. And then they did it again. And then inexplicably they ran, I think, through the first half 8 times on first down for a combined -2 or -4 yards. It was so obviously not working. But if you're going to continue to insist that we are a running team, we use the run to set up the pass, we have to set up play action, it's a strength of who we're going to be, and then you can't be that, well, maybe that's not who you are. And maybe, though, that's who you thought you should be and you were going to be when the season began, I don't know that that's who you are anymore. And I think they were extremely slow to diagnose that. I don't know if we're going to win this game, but the best chance we have is to kind of let Drake try and cook and hope for the best, because the other stuff wasn't working. They got ultra conservative with what they were doing, and and Jacksonville, who has some offensive players and has some weapons and has a good quarterback, started to put points up on your defense that has been leaky. What did you expect? You're going to pitch a shutout at 10-0? I don't understand. You had to keep pressing and an advantage that it looked like you have and put up some points. And I just didn't see it. So I'll ask you, it's easy to say, the easiest thing for like the layperson football fan to say is, what are you doing running? And obviously you can't pass 70 times a game, but running on first down predictably all of those times and having those drives blown up after those first two successful ones and continuing to carry that on, I thought was, at best conservative, at worst, like really unimaginative and like borderline, incompetent. Like I didn't understand it. I didn't understand where the offense went in that regard. I also think, and we found out later with Pop, and you may disagree here, but there's a problem when your best playmaker plays only in 11 personnel and you're out there running 12 personnel a lot. Turns out Pop was sick in some way, and maybe that limited, maybe it wasn't a penalty. I think he lost 4 snaps in that first half to Osborne, who subbed in his place. But your best playmaker's not on the field half the time, and that's a problem. So, like, sometimes you got to just abandon from, well, this is my 11 personnel package, this is my 12 personnel package, and say, I gotta get freaking Pop on the field. He's the only guy who can make a play here. He's the only guy who can separate. He's the only guy who can get open, especially when Polk, who we're going to talk about at great length eventually, but it's not the lead, but it's a thing, is just batting balls down like it's friggin', Hail Mary passes instead of trying to catch it like as a defender. He's trying to defend a Hail Mary. Like, so I don't know. That's my view from where I sit. Any validity to any of that?
So with Pop, the thing with the 12 personnel, like I think that's getting blown out of proportion because that's just the early down offense. And I've gone through it. Really, the only times they're passing out of those are to make it look like run, where it's play action. Like at the end of the day, you're talking about maybe 5 dropbacks that Pop's not involved in. I think that whole thing has gotten blown completely out of proportion. So I'm just going to say that, like the 12 personnel, no, he's not in there, but he's not the only person. And also Pop is someone who has a history of concussions. A lot of those plays off play action are going over the middle. Like I'm not really that mad that Pop isn't in those specific groupings because they still play a ton of 11 personnel. That's still part of their base offense. And also this week specifically, I do think we got the report that he was sick. Javon Baker didn't make the trip. He was designated with an illness on, I think it was Friday. So maybe there's something going around the room. Like, honestly, once I heard it was an illness, I'm like, okay, this math kind of starting to add up. Maybe the symptoms popped up late last night. So the Pop thing, I'm not really diving too much into that. The guy was sick. And like I said, I don't think the 12 personnel stuff is nearly as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. And then when it comes to them being conservative, let's remember they passed on the first down after their field goal drive when the Jaguars scored a touchdown. They threw and Kayshon Boutte drew DPI. Then the next play, they run the ball. Like, I'm really not upset with it.
That was the other not great throw. He was a DPI. That was the other one I was trying to think of with May. But okay. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. But little
behind him, not necessarily turnover worthy, but not a great one. But yeah.
Right. And then, like, again, Drake did good things, but let's not act like he was perfect today either. And also, you have DeMontre Jacobs going up against Josh Hines Allen. Like, I did want them to air it out this game, and I thought they would. But I didn't want it to turn into, oh, it's 1st and 10. Let's have Drake Maye do a straight drop back. Like, I didn't mind that. So, okay, the run gets stopped for negative yardage. They lose a yard, right, after they get the DPI. The next play is a screen to Hunter Henry that for some reason Hunter almost ran into Michael Jordan as he was going out to release. Then that gets blown up for 4 yards. Then you're facing 3rd and 15 after a 2nd and 11 already. Like, I don't really think that's about necessarily play calling. I think it's execution or play design, one or the other. I didn't have an issue with the actual play there. All right, so then the Patriots pump the ball away after that drive, right? So you try to pass, get the run blown up. You have a screen that gets blown up because it's poorly designed. Then you basically have to kind of give up and dump it off. Jaguars score a touchdown. Patriots have to punt again. So what was that next drive? A run up the middle for 1 yard. That one I can understand pushing back against. Drake throws short to KJ Osborne for 4 yards, 3rd and 5. Hunter Henry false start on 3rd and 5. That kind of kills your chances of actually converting because then he tries to throw it to Ja'Lynn Polk, set them up during the 2 minute. They can't. They punt it away, and then it's a touchdown, and then the game got completely out of hand, right? Then you can't score when you try to go for it for 2 minutes. So I think more so than the play calling, it was that this game just kind of spun out of control completely in the second quarter. And at that point, you're kind of playing from a deficit anyway.
No doubt. And I'm not arguing with you or on this point in particular, but the two things could potentially go hand in hand, which is you had to press your advantage a little bit. It wasn't just calling runs. It was just the style of plays that they were trying to run. It felt everything was kind of controlled, just trying to kind of play it safe. And I understand wanting to do that with a rookie. I understand that we did that with, you saw them do that with Mac Jones for an entire year pretty much, when people were like, hey, he looks capable, throw more at him. I would say the recognition I'm looking at here is understand that, hey, May looks really comfortable after these 2 drives. Maybe we can open things up a bit. Again, that's asking for a lot, because now you're asking for things that you haven't seen happen consistently to happen consistently, which is receivers get separation, receivers catch the ball, and the offensive line be able to hold up. And so obviously any of those things could blow up that plan, which is why I say for better or for worse. But kind of the feeling that you were going to be able to do what you were doing and continue on with it, and then watch the thing spiral a little bit out of control and just say, well, stick to the plan. Didn't feel like it was necessarily the way to go there. The penalties are still going to bother me completely here. When you talked about the Hunter Henry penalty, I think closing that second half, the 3 penalties that hurt them were on Hunter Henry, Jelani Tavai, Kyle Duggar. These are your veteran leaders. These are guys who are supposed to be.
And Dietrich Wise, who went all on. It was some gave up the edge on a scramble for Trevor Lawrence on, I think it was a 3rd down, where Dietrich Wise has been preaching discipline and not getting penalties. And Dietrich Wise got a penalty last week that cost them a 3rd down as well. Now, obviously, the Texans missed a field goal. But to your point, it's very disappointing when it's your veterans and your captains who are the ones that are having these costly penalties. So great point.
It really, really bothered me there. And that's the thing that keeps getting to me is like, who if not them, then who? And that's the thing is like, I don't think Hunter Henry's a world beater, but he's a veteran leader and he's a professional football player. Tavai, for sure. You've only got guys at maybe like half your positions on the field right now that you can really rely upon, that really have to go above and beyond and set examples and perform at optimal level. You just can't have it from those guys because you have so many other people in so many other spots who are just sadly overmatched and barely hanging on and just trying to do their absolute best there. So when you see, some disappointing outings from these guys, when you see Gonzo get burned on that 58-yard post, which again, he's a human. It happens. Very fast receiver.
He literally had his hand in
and
there.
Honestly, he was really close. It was pretty decent coverage. He got half a step on him. Perfect throw, good catch, down the field there. But I think he gets beat on the 2-pointer. It happens. It's not the end of the world. I'm not putting anything on Gonzo for this game, but you need them to step up, or to at least not poop all over themselves and make penalties and do, those types of things that you saw those guys doing. And that's what kills you there. So you don't have any issue with the coaching at all?
The coaching is usually one of those things where, honestly, unless it's
they're soft. They're a soft team, and Mayo said it, and I'll play a bite for you.
Offensively, it's one of those things where, like, all right, let me actually go through the game again, because I can't think of anything. You can say maybe they should have run here, whatever, but, like, I didn't see anything that was so bad. Like, the end of half situation, maybe. I don't like that they tried to go for it necessarily, but also I think with them, they just think they need to execute in those situations, and we keep seeing that most of the time they can't. But defensively, like, I don't even know what it was exactly, because it wasn't like scheme necessarily. The players are just losing.
They're running just dives.
Right.
They're literally running dives into the center of the line and just getting anything they wanted. This inside zone. They were just running basic stuff right at you, and you couldn't stop it. It was unbelievable. There's nothing more embarrassing than was it 17 or 18 straight runs there in that fourth quarter?
I think they had, before Trevor Lawrence had that really late pass, they had a 13-0 run to pass ratio in the fourth quarter. It was insane. They literally didn't pass until, let me actually see what play it was exactly that they finally were like, hey, Trevor, we'll get you involved in the game. With 4 minutes and 9 seconds left, it was the 3rd and 7 that he threw incomplete to Christian Kirk. That was the first time they ran in the fourth quarter. So basically they went not 10 minutes straight. They didn't have the ball the entire time. But basically it went that whole time and just didn't even try to pass the ball because they knew they didn't need to. And that is, I wish I was in the locker room to talk to Devon Gottschalk, because I can only imagine he's furious. And considering how he's played,
what's he mad about? Getting pushed back on roller skates? Or
he's been fantastic this season, so I'm not going to assume that was him. but because you got like Jaquelin Roy, Eric Johnson, like guys that are trying to fill in. I don't know for sure who exactly was getting pushed around. I got to go back and watch that. So I'm not throwing Gotcha onto the bus, but I know he's not going to be happy. And I'm impressed. Yeah, what a disaster. I'm with you, BC. I'm with you.
I'll tell you, I am very concerned for the well-being of my employees and the people I work with. And I'll tell you that Taylor Kyles around this point last year entered a really dark place because it was like, oh my God, this all year. I don't want you going back there, Taylor. I don't want that. I want the positive stuff. That last year was a tough team to cover, and this is getting hard to cover because, again, and this is another reason why, as much as you're all lucky. Everyone here is lucky that I wasn't here. Well, your eyes popped.
I just saw the quote that Mayo said there was.
Yeah. I'm going to put it up. I have it. You're lucky I wasn't here to take the Drake Maye should have been playing all along victory lap last week. I'm keeping it mainly to myself. My favorite thing about that stupid argument of he's going to get ruined that we batted around for all of this time is that it's over. It doesn't matter anymore. He's playing. And he's going to play, and now you can move forward on it. But the thing that I like the most off of this, in terms of, you have to be honest, right? Like, why pretend real problems aren't real problems? Now that you can feel better that the quarterback position is in decent hands, and that, now it's our job. And Mayo said it last game, and people were like, what do you mean you got to be better around the rookie? Like, that he's right. Like, so it looks like this guy can play. We got to support him a little bit. That doesn't just mean on the field. That means what they do off the field, in the off season, with the draft, with all of those things. Now it's about diagnosing and really putting under the microscope every other thing that's going on with this team. Because this season, again, I've said from the beginning, I don't give a crap about the wins and losses. You don't want demoralizing losses because they feel shitty, and then it's just going to make everything worse and worse and worse. You don't want to see people making business decisions and starting to quit and all of those things later, for sure. You need some good mixed in there. You have to see the arrow pointing up some. But it's been going down, down, down since week one. And now you can't look at it and just say it's the quarterback play, it's the quarterback play, it's the quarterback play, it's the offensive line play, it's the offensive line play.
Everything else. It's become everything else.
It's about all of the other things that are problems, and they're real problems. And that, depending on your opinion, some people are looking at coaching, whether it's schematically or having people ready to play. Some people are looking at certain positions that you weren't focusing as much attention on, that maybe got a pass because everything was so bad. I'll tell you what, Drake Maye's made the offensive line look slightly better for 2 consecutive weeks, even through Houston last week, that did get a decent pressure rate by, being on time,
making the ball out, extending plays,
doing what he has to do, extending plays, making some off-platform plays. He's doing that, and the offensive line in turn looks better. Who doesn't look better? The receivers. Who doesn't look better? The defense. And now this is a taking stock year. This is what do we have that's worth keeping, and what do we have that we got to get rid of immediately? And that's kind of where you're at. And I think learning this about you is good in some sense, because you have to figure out what you can and can't do and who can and can't play, because you got to address a lot of things this offseason. You got to be able to prioritize what those things are. You can't go in assuming my defense is good. If it's not, there might be some issues here where you have to address certain areas on the field and people that you thought maybe were better than they are, and replace them or try to upgrade or do whatever you can do there. We all know the much publicized offensive line, wide receiver, quarterback situation. That's still a thing. But now it's kind of a little bit more exposed now that the quarterback thing is out of the way. We mentioned Gerard Mayo. We're going to hear from it here. This is Mayo at the podium talking about what he thinks the problem with the team currently is.
Or whatever time it is. Look, disappointing game. We came out, we started fast. What I would say is, look, we're a soft football team across the board. We talk about what makes a tough football team. That's being able to run the ball, that's being able to stop the run, and that's being able to cover kicks, and we did none of those today. They controlled the ball for most of the day. Their run game averaged over 4.5 yards a carry. Our run game, not sure what the average was, but it wasn't good. Look, back to the drawing board. I mean, we can't sit here and pout. We just got to put the game together.
So I'll ask you, and again, going back to coaching, it's easy to say, like, I think blaming coaching in a lot of sports is a big cop-out. I think less so in football, because I think the coach is responsible. The entire staff is responsible for so much, Taylor. And that includes the overall mentality of the team, getting them ready to play, and then also putting them in the best position to succeed. I'll have you, and it's such a far cry where we are now from week one. Cincinnati will run through a wall from that guy. Hell yeah. The tunnel celebration and all of those things about like, all right, we showed you, to where they are now, where it's like shoulders slumped, finger pointing, hands in the air, perplexed. I call it the Pete Carroll expression. Like, I can't believe that. Did that just happen? Yeah, it happened. Fix it. Was a lot of that going on, which is like, shrug your shoulders, like, what's going on? It's kind of your job to know and to fix it and to figure it out and to do the best you can. So I'm guessing you still go in that locker room and you're in there every day. I don't think there's a vibe that Mayo's lost the room, but I'll tell you this, you get your ass kicked 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks in a row. You walk off the field and you start wondering, like, why am I doing this, or why are we doing that, or like, should we have been doing this more? And that second guessing comes in. You're going to have problems, and you might have them already.
So what I really wonder is, you're right. I don't think the locker room vibe is that, Drake Maye is losing guys. And again, there is something to be said for the fact that the defense did get like that stop right near the red zone. That's a point where a team that really doesn't care would just let them walk in. And that's honestly what I expected given what they had done. That's really, again, I mean that with like, it's the smallest grain of salt I can add, because I really do think there's a difference between a team that genuinely is quitting and like guys are standing up versus, I mean, obviously it still wasn't good, but that's all, again, that's just kind of a soft entrance into what I'm going to say. I'm curious to see how active Drake Maye is on the sidelines. It's something I'm going to be looking out for more in the games that we're actually at, because usually there's so much going on. But, with like Belichick, if the defense was getting gashed, he's getting in that huddle and he's telling you, like, we need to do X, Y, Z. Like, we need to get this together. And I don't like making the Bill Mayo comparisons because those were never going to be fair. But, like, Mayo was the leader of this defense. Now it's Covington, but I wonder, like, is Mayo still seen as the guy who they answer to and who they defer to at the end of the day? Because I always see him on the sideline, but I never see those clips of him, like, getting the defense together and being like, get your shit together. This is completely unacceptable. We can't be going on the field and having them running down the middle, play after play, when we know what's coming and we still can't stop it. That is the definition of a soft defense. Literally, it's what we saw the Patriots do to the Bengals. And I'm thinking, classic Cincy. They never have a good run game or a good run defense. And this is how you can tell, why they haven't gotten further necessarily more consistently. And that's what you saw from them. So I don't know if Drake Maye maybe needs to be more active with these guys on the sideline. I don't know what it is, but the mentality week after week just hasn't been there, even though you have guys like Devon Gottschall who clearly aren't happy with it, who I'm sure are voicing his concerns on the sideline, and it's still not enough. And at this point, I don't really care about the injuries. Like, you're still a professional football player. You're being held to a certain standard. Like Gottschall said, even if you're a backup, you need to prepare like you're a starter because you're one snap away from being a starter. And again, I need to watch the film to know if it was the backups, if it was guys like Daniel Aquala he would expect to be scout. But, like, I mean, yes, this does fall on coaching because he said it himself. You're soft across the board. Whose fault is that? It's yours. So, yeah, I mean, that's all I got to say. Like,
how did we go?
What his role is exactly when it comes to, like, in-game getting these guys ready.
This is my big takeaway, and on that situation. And again, I say everything with the caveat of there's major issues everywhere on this team in terms of personnel that makes being a quarterback harder, being a head coach harder, being a coordinator harder. You're fighting an uphill battle in a lot of different ways. So you always have to grade May going forward. Also, and also these are guys doing this, many of them for their first year. DeMarcus Covington is a first-year defensive coordinator. Drake Maye, as we know, was never even actually a coordinator, and now he's a head coach, which is a massive responsibility. And so I understand that, but there's still issues that I think we have to talk about, and we will in just a minute. First off, I want to tell you, Prize Picks, you want to get them in? It's 1:00. You got to fly to get them in now, but you can still check it out and get some stuff in if you want to get them for those 4:00 games. #1 fantasy sports app, great for football, basketball season starting up. I loves me some Prize Picks when it comes to hoops. It's a lot of fun. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 players, you could win up to like 1,000 times your money. It's insane. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Grab your favorite players. Cross sports, doesn't matter. Stack them up and let her rip, more or less on whatever stats. I think we got a special offer, which I'm being told. Anthony Edwards, free square. It's a free square. 0.5 over on 0.5. More than 0.5 points. That's a win. That you hit that square. He just needs to hit 1 point for that square to win. So check that out. Get involved here with Prize Picks. Sign up today. Use that code CLNS. Play $5, get $50 instantly into your account. You don't even have to win. Just play 5, get 50. It is that easy. We also want to talk about game time. You want to get in. You want to see the Patriots. Hey, they're back. They're back at home, taking on the Jets in, I guess, what's going to probably be the potential. And the Jets got a lot of help this week, boy. But yeah, you want to. All of a sudden, everybody wants to play for the Jets. But here we go. Download that game. That was a woodshed beating the Patriots took that first time through. So we'll see what happens here with Drake Maye going against that Jets team. But
yeah, and all their momentum.
Download the Game Time app, create an account, use CLNS, the code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Super easy to use, really great. I've used it myself multiple times. I really love it. The all-in pricing, so you know exactly what you're paying for and what you're getting with the panoramic view from the sheets. Great deals. Everything gets cheaper too as you get closer to game time or to kickoff or to the start of your favorite show. So check it out. I think, is Ahmed, you throw up some Jets for me? Is that what we're looking at? Yeah, it's, you can. Hey, the best time to hit an app like Game Time is after a bad loss. Okay, because there might be some people like, yeah, I'm going apple picking next week, and I get it. I get it.
Don't blame them.
You want to keep wasting? Would you wait? Do you want to waste a Sunday like this? Some people don't. You know, if this was a family outing and you were bringing the missus and the kids, yeah, honey, we're not going. We're not spending 14 hours on Route 1. But you might want to. So get in, check out that Game Time app, download it. CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Let me tell you what bugs me the most on all of it, beyond the coulda, woulda, shoulda, second guessing sort of stuff, which I think doesn't serve anybody, you know, for real. I think you can always second guess some stuff. I think some stuff is obvious and egregious. Some of it is judgment, but the reality is, and I acknowledge this, beyond in football more so than any other sport, the majority of us are not qualified enough to even open our mouths and to talk about what's going on in terms of schematically and what they could be doing and what they're looking at. They're on such a high level and it's so involved and it's so intricate, and you don't know what's truly going on there and what they think can work and what they're seeing in practice. There's a lot to it. So the second guessing in terms of why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? I never get on for the coaching. What I do get on, what bugs me a bit, Taylor, is what you had said earlier. I think the obsession with not being Bill Belichick is the biggest problem with the coaching staff and with Mayo's approach to this year. I think Mayo came in as a guy who's going to set a tone and a culture in terms of his attitude and his vibe, and he was going to do that by empowering people to do their jobs and to treat them like men and to have a voice and to be able to voice their criticism. It hasn't gone well on or off the field. You've had issues with players going on social media and then regretting doing that. Multiple issues with that. You have guys popping off like Polk last week in direct opposition to what the head coach said about him. You've got,
as we 2 weeks in a row, did something that spoke out and was very vocally unhappy with his role. This team has me going brain dead.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot of that stuff that is the exact. So, and again, I use the analogy of, it's like, you know, you're a kid and you're like, you know, you have strict parents. You're like, when I'm a parent, I'm going to let my kids do everything. And then you try it and you're like, oh crap. Oh no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. You know, and I think this is what's happening a little bit here. Is it's not a position where you can freestyle it. And it's not a position where you can freestyle it as a rookie, and with a lot of inexperienced coaches as well in your staff. You have to be the beacon. You have to be the person that everybody follows, and you can't just go out there and give the press conferences and we got to this and we got to that. I'm sorry, you have to. Like, that's kind of it. Like, this obsession with not being like Bill, and almost so many of the quotes were almost kind of like subtweeting, Bill and the way he was and all of this stuff. It doesn't work. You have to be the tough leader first and then the buddy next. Everyone who comes in and wants to be the player's coach or player's manager fails. It's really hard to do unless the rest of your shit is locked down. And you can't do that by deferring to your assistants and then going to them and being like, what's going on, guys? We got to do better. It's got to be you who does it. And I think there's been too much of that, which I'm going to let people do their thing and treat them like men. And then when they don't, it comes back to you. And this isn't just NFL coaching. It's everywhere. If you're a manager and you're in charge of everything, you just let people do whatever they want all the time. And it goes to shit. And you can have lawsuits and things like, stuff that will take your entire business down. It doesn't work that way. You can't operate that way. There's too much going on here to have that type of approach and that type of attitude. So I wonder if he had the benefit of hindsight, he could walk it back. He might enter camp with a little bit more of a tough guy, a hard ass approach to how things are going to get done, because that's what this team needs way more than you can treat veteran winners differently than you can treat a team like this. This was not the approach to take with this team. And I think it's killing them a little bit.
And honestly, I think there's a difference between him wanting to empower players and be more empathetic and all that.
You can do both.
Coach. Right. I think that's one thing. And I know everybody keeps quote tweeting that post I had from when Mike and Winnie was riding the bike and they had the basketball hoop in the locker room. First of all, the hoop has never been there since we've been in the locker room. So that was something I think maybe they just introduced early and got rid of. We're not seeing people ride bikes. It's not like this place is a total free for all. And from everything we've seen from Drake Maye and what heard about Drake Maye, I don't think they're going behind the scenes and he's like, hey guys, it's okay. I think he really is hard on them. When he called them a soft team, Jelani Tabai was
can be.
Huh?
I want you to continue, but I'll say that. I believe he's doing that. I believe he's calling them out publicly. And I believe he's going back there afterwards and saying that stuff. However, it's the ounce of prevention, pound of cure sort of thing. If you have them prepared on the outset, you don't have to go in and say, here's what you did wrong. If you told them or they were prepared to do it right in the first place, you have to you have to do less of the other thing. I think more of the coaching comes before, not after. That's my thinking.
But that's where I don't know where the line is drawn. Is it everybody says how Belichick, they knew what they had to get done and they didn't do it. It doesn't seem like guys are going in and not knowing how to win games. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't seem like this team is totally lost. It's been an execution thing. So for me, all right, is it the preparation in terms of the type of practices they're having? Or is it just a lack of ability to get them as energized as they need to be throughout a game and hold that momentum? I really don't know, because I don't think that they're going in and having no idea how to win these games or anything like that. We do see in there's been very few of these games where they are non-competitive. Really just the Jets game was the only one where it's they're not even there's no chance. I'd like to sim and we're not even halfway through the third quarter. Some of these, it's oh, there's some resilience. Awesome. They are not a team that's going to quit. But it's the resilience mentally a bit is there, but then it's just the execution is completely gone. So, this is the thing that sucks about covering a losing team, is because I've never been a coach. I've never been a play caller. A lot of this I really don't know, and I'm kind of learning as I go because we've had Belichick for so long. And a lot of these things kind of took care of themselves, where with other teams you say, oh, haha, they're poorly prepared, but you don't really need to get into the nitty gritty of why. Under this regime, it just feels like they know that the execution's not good enough, and the coaches don't seem like there's necessarily, the lack of preparation against the Jets is one thing where they're yeah, we really just came out with no juice. So I don't really know how you fix this. I have no idea. Obviously, the injuries are the injuries, but you don't know when these guys are going to come back or if they're going to come back. This could be the bones of the roster that you have throughout the season. So frankly, I really don't know where you go from here because the execution's not good enough. And a lot of these same players are on the team last year doing better. Obviously, it falls to the coaches, but who exactly is supposed to get the pieces of the blame pie?
That's the best question. And that's the scary thing is I don't know. What ends up happening is at this time, people get emotional, they get frustrated, and they want to blame somebody or everybody, whether it's founded or not. And you're right. It's actually a good bit more complicated to be able to diagnose exactly what, because again, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And for all we know is Mayo's doing a terrific job getting everybody, doing as much as any other human could do heading into the week and getting everybody ready and trying to get them on the same page, and they're just not responding. Sometimes it is. I mean, we saw Bill Belichick in 2009 and a famous clip in one of those little docuseries where he's just going to Tom Brady's. I can't get these guys to do what I want. I can't figure it out. And it's Bill Belichick, the greatest coach who's ever coached and the greatest quarterback who's ever played, who everybody should absolutely be following every single thing they're saying, shrugging their shoulders and be like, what's wrong with these effing guys? So it doesn't always work.
I've thought of that quote every week for the past 4 weeks. I'm not exaggerating. At least once a week, I'm just like, what are they supposed to do? And I think of like, oh my God, if like Bill couldn't do it and this team is like on this losing streak and it looks like it's getting bad, I wonder when Mayo, or if he's saying that behind the scenes, honestly. Because it's like, is it coaching? Is it just they've lost so many on-field leaders and like playmakers that now it's kind of exposing some of the guys who maybe weren't doing that as frequent? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's definitely the fact that key losses have exacerbated some of the holes they already had and put players who were great role players, and now they have to be these other key starting playmakers, and it's just like, oh, that's not the kind of guy he is. Like, I don't know, but yeah, that quote keeps popping up in my head because it just feels like they're going to the sideline, and Mayo's just like, I told you what to do. Why aren't you doing it? And again, that's
I know, but again, we talk about
you
talk about the different vibes. You talked about the basketball. We also talked about this, the vibes, right? And the vibe shift was supposed to be a good thing, and it is until you go on the field and you play worse every week for 6 consecutive weeks. That's a problem, that's a problem. And so this stuff, this is why, again, I would caution against any coach coming in here and trying desperately to separate yourself from the greatest who's ever done it. Like, there is no question Bill Belichick had to go. He had been tuned out. His ways were we're starting to get antiquated. Older dude, getting more stubborn, had massive personnel issues, too much control. I get it.
And let's be there, because really quick, this never gets brought up with the Bill thing. Like, we need to be so clear. We all love Bill Belichick. We all know that he is a great defensive mind, great evaluator of talent on the defensive side of the ball. If we just ignore the fact that the offense was incompetent as soon as Josh McDaniels left, we also need to bring up the fact that the coaching staff was imploding. Like, Bill O'Brien was getting micromanaged. There was fighting between the front office and the coaching staff. Like, the staff wasn't really on the same page. So, like, I hate this debate so much, and that's really why. Like, everyone loves Bill, but he needed to go because it wasn't just even the offense.
There's no question.
Like, in the house, it was falling.
No
just saying that.
But trying to desperately separate yourself from a formula that produced however many AFC title game appearances, 14, 15, it's like 7, 6, 8, 9 trips to the Super Bowl, 6 Super Bowl wins. Like, that doesn't. The one thing you could never question from Bill until very, very recently, where things got really bad, is preparedness and ready to play a game. And right now, the biggest problem with this team is they don't look ready to play a lot of games. They don't look ready to play in the game. They don't look ready for what, the situation presents,
but here's the thing. It's like one thing or another, because they get the fast start this week. Like, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, that's the frustrating part, is like, you see them get better at certain points every week. Like, there's something they say they're going to pinpoint. Some weeks they don't. But like this week, you get the fast start on offense and defense. When's the last time we saw a fast start on offense from the Patriots? Like, honestly, going back to like last year, we haven't seen it. So you check that box, and they are ready to start the game. And then they just shit their pants for an entire quarter, to the point where it turns into a blowout in less than 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, and this was my fear. Personnel added a lot to this. You lose Barmore, you lose Peppers now, who, we don't know if he's ever going to play for this team again. Barmore may or may not. You lose Judon. You've lost people who were making plays for you on that side of the ball. But my fear was, I think Bill Belichick, taking his ball and going home and ignoring the offense entirely and just letting, Bill O'Brien handle it. And, okay, Mr. Kraft, you wanted You wanted an offensive coach. Here he is. It's yours. I'm not drafting anybody. Go figure it out. And then he just focused on the defense. Well, the defense played great. My fear was without Belichick's 100% attention to detail that the defense would slack this year a little bit. And you can blame some on the personnel, but I don't think this precipitous a drop in their overall performance just based on some of the personnel issues that they're facing. I think a lot of it has to do with who's telling them what to do. And last year it was Bill, and this year it's not Bill. And I'm sorry. I think that is a tangible difference on the field in terms of what you see. But I'm not here to advocate for having kept Bill Belichick. I'm here to say that there are things Bill Belichick did you should try to emulate and things he did that you should not. And I think going back to my overarching point here is I think there might have been too much of a hands-off approach to some of the implementation of how things went. Look, my belief from the get-go, Taylor, has always been if I could crack the code of like what happened with the quarterback situation, my belief was Gerard Mayo said, "Hey, Alex Van Pelt, in you I trust. Figure this out. Okay, Brissett's going to be our guy. We're going to slow play May. Understood. Organizational decision. That's what we're on board with." And then they did it. And then around week 3, Mayo starts looking around. He's like, this May guy might be better, like a lot better. Should we maybe play him or have played him? And they're like, well, dude, it's too friggin' late now. If that were the case, you should have told us from week 1 to install the offense around him, give him every single snap with the ones, and build the preseason around him. We can't put him in now. He's not ready. Okay, we'll kind of wait and see. And that's how I think a lot of the May thing went. I think Mayo tried to stick him in there late, and he couldn't because he'd ceded a lot of control over what was going on behind the scenes. I know you're kind of getting ready to tell me, like, I disagree, but I'm telling you.
Such an annoying storyline.
Huh?
I just think it's such an annoying storyline because here's the thing. I don't like speculating on things I don't know. We don't even know.
I do. That's okay, what I do.
I know, but I'm saying like,
and I end up being right a little bit. I'm just saying.
He's even acknowledged there were things that Drake wasn't as good at early in the season that he did get better at, and we also heard they're okay, whatever. But that's the point. Like, I don't like. I would rather have a productive conversation. I don't think it's productive to speculate on what happened behind the scenes. If we get more information and if like it'd continue to be a big thing, whatever. Here, the bottom line is the defense or the team should not have needed Drake Maye to win most of those games. That's the bottom line for me. Is I think it's more egregious that the defense played as poorly as it did at times. At times the play calling like didn't lean on the run as much, but obviously that's partially circumstance because of the game. I'm not even going to get into the Drake Maye thing. I really don't care. You can be right.
I'm using that as an example of what I believe was a little bit of a hands-off sort of type of approach that goes back to the beginning of how things were run here. And I have people who, again, observationally were telling me, people who are with the team and cover the team, that maybe they're not going to go out there and report it, but there was a little bit of a vibe of like Mayo's just kind of like, even early on, he's not involved in the defense. He's just kind of walking around and, you guys good? And then he'd kind of do that. And there wasn't as much hands-on sort of stuff, even in camp and some of the practices we saw. At times there was, but not like you would normally see. It seemed more like he was like overseeing rather than directly involved with implementation and a lot of other things. So this is, again, a snapshot without really knowing of what it looked like. That's all I'm saying.
With the quarterback thing, I did understand because I also wasn't too comfortable with the idea of a defensive coach and former linebacker telling a guy who played quarterback and has actually been like working with and developing quarterbacks what to do. Like, obviously, if he decided like we need to put this kid in, like I need to put my foot down because we're losing games and Jacoby's not even giving us a chance. That was like, yes, if you are the head coach, that is where you need to put your foot down. But when it comes to the defense, that's where, like I was saying earlier, you should be very involved. They listened to you. Like, you were the de facto, like, and everybody said that it was him and Steven that were the de facto defensive coordinators, but Mayo was the one leading the meetings. And obviously Mayo's the one that everyone knows is the former player, the former perennial captain, potential Patriots Hall of Fame, like all that kind of stuff. So that part does bug me because, again, I struggle to insult coaching outside of just being like, your team isn't playing well, you are the head coach, you are always responsible for that. Like, yes, the only reason I'm not more critical of Mayo is because I don't know where exactly his coaching has faltered, and I don't want to sit here talking out of my ass when I don't actually know what I'm talking about. But that insight that really people in the building are saying, hey, he is being kind of hands-off. And I mentioned earlier, I wish that I had seen him like Belichick on the defensive like huddle being like, what are we doing? Like, this is what you need to do. Play better, like fundamentals. Like, we've seen Bill do that all the time. So that, I will say, with that information, is something I need to see more of from Mayo. Like, yes, DeMarcus Covington is great. I know he's well respected, but it is your team, and more importantly, your defense. And they are playing subpar football week in and week out. Like, the coverage is usually fine. The things that are bad about the coverage are compounded by the fact that the run game or the run defense sucks. And as a linebacker, your team should never be bad at defending the run unless, like, obviously personnel is a part of the issue. But, like, you have too many players on this team to be as bad against the run as you are. So, yes, like, with that bit of information, that is where I think Mayo needs to get involved, because I'm not making excuses for the guy. I'm just not trying to say something when I don't know what I'm talking about. But
I understand. I am not. I swear.
I'm talking to the chat as well. I'm talking to the chat.
Yeah. I'm not saying it definitively. Like I said, is we're trying to make some observations about like what's happening. And as I said, is it's more of a. I feel like there's a lot on the back end and not as much as you'd like to see on the front end. And really, that's just speaking to preparation. I think if they were doing a better job, you would have a kind of cleaner product here. And I'm not going to get mad that like City So misses a block completely, which led Drake Maye to, rushing a throw that led to a Kendrick Bourne incompletion. What?
So Ja'Lynn Polk just tweeted like.
So I have it. You want to see it?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't speak Gen Z. But like this whole like peace out sort of thing, does this mean what? He's like quitting the team? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know, but Ja'Lynn Polk has been the most surprised I have ever been by a rookie in terms of like what I thought they were going to be personality. I'm not saying he's a bad guy or anything, but like he was touted as like a leader, a future captain, like one of the toughest dudes in the program. I haven't seen any of that since like the first week that he got here, when he was, excited and like leading the receiver lines. Like, this is bizarre. I don't know what that means, but considering you just had a bad game, you said that you weren't playing poorly when you were playing poorly, and now this, like, bro, get off your phone. Stop talking so much. I don't like to praise what people do, but like, bro, you're a rookie.
Ahmed putting in the Max Letterman style of lower third, which I support. I like it.
Oh my God.
I like it. This is the type of shit that Max would do on NBC when we gave him a little bit of extra room to operate. Yeah, look, this is what he did. The 0 catches drops. I don't know if they go down as drops, but a ball hits an NFL receiver and he puts 2 hands on it. Those are drops. And then he falls on the goal line as well. You could even say 3 drops on 3 targets. So yeah,
for a dude who's supposed to be a ball magnet, like, yes, if the ball touches your hands, I don't really care.
I will say this, Taylor, I agree 100%. Polk acts like Polk's behavior resembles a 32-year-old formerly elite wide receiver whose skill set has left him and he can't come to grips with it anymore. And he's holding on to what he once was and continuing to act like it, demanding the ball, bitching and moaning about things, pretending things that are issues aren't issues. That's what he acts like. But he's a 22-year-old, 23-year-old who hasn't done a freaking thing in the NFL. Depending on whether you're a next-gen guy or a PFF guy, there are some people that rank him among the worst in the league in separation here. So not only is he not getting open, he's dropping the ball. He's got all sorts of problems. And again, to go over what he said, this week, which earlier after in the criticism of Gerard Mayo saying he's got some mental issues and the drops are an issue, to say he's got the best hands of the leagues and the thing that's obviously an issue isn't anymore. And then the first friggin' play of a game, have the ball hit him. First opportunity he has to make a play, ball hits him in both his hands, and he drops it. And then he did it again. Just a brutal day. And here's Mayo after the game kind of calling out Polk again.
Polk, we need more concentration. He'll be a good player in this league. Just got to continue to work at it.
And I know everyone's like, oh, Javon Baker, get Javon Baker out there. Guys, Javon Baker is a healthy – not in this week, it wasn't a healthy scratch. But, like, this is a guy that's been a healthy scratch. What do you think is happening behind the scenes with Baker that's any different from Polk? It blows my mind when people do this. I know it doesn't blow my mind. I understand. You get frustrated. You want the shiny new toy. But Javon Baker has like been documented to have been struggling in an even more compounded way before the whole Polk thing even started. Why do people think that Baker is going to be better when he struggled with drops and focus and not having trust from the quarterbacks and coaches going all the way back to the summer? What are we doing here? I know why we want it, but like, let's be realistic, please. I don't like that one. The poor guy got a concussion. I don't like that one.
This one kills me.
No comment. No comment. No comment.
Oh crap! There's more to it.
But like, 2 balls in Javon Polk's 2 non-catches. They rule to drop it if you got the chance to make those catches. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And again, like the Baker thing, like I have seen, like even in practice, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but like the focus drops show up sometimes in practice when they're just going through drills. I've seen them drop some stuff. Like, you know, I think they're going through these mental hurdles, and you get that. You know, rookie receivers in the NFL, you need to have a lot of confidence to play this position. Like, remember Jamar Chase the preseason where he couldn't catch a cold?
Yeah, and then that's why I didn't draft him. He fell from a 3rd rounder to a 6th rounder in the draft, and then he caught everything. But yeah,
but like confidence in getting, and like even Alex Van Pelt said he thinks success is going to be what gets Polk out of this slump. That's just the nature of, especially being a young receiver in the league. I just think neither one of these guys has much of a reason to be confident. And then even Kayshon Boutte, like I think a big reason that he had this jump is because one, didn't have the legal situation hanging over his head, but finally had a coaching staff that pushed him and actually gave him a chance and believed him.
I know, but so here's where we're at now, and this is where like you can blame the players. And again, is it fair to cast judgment on somebody and who they're going to be for their entire career because they had a rough start to it? No, but you'd like to see something or see anything that shows you that there's more to come, right? And Polk has, like, what's the opposite of checking every box, right? Like, it's really bad, which is such a far cry from what we saw in you. There was reason to believe coming out of training camp that he'd be wide receiver 1 on this team. Yes. Like in terms of volume of passes thrown his way, overall production, Pop Douglas might have been the most explosive playmaker on that team, but because of him, as we said, playing mainly in 3 receiver sets and being a little guy and, not being, he didn't have the profile of the type of guy who's going to get fed nonstop, even though, again, I think you got to figure out a way to do more because that you don't have a lot elsewhere. That's a separate story. Polk's been exactly the opposite. And so you just said it earlier, and this is what's going to start. People are impatient, Taylor. Like people don't want to wait till year 2 and 3 to find out that Tyquan Thornton is Tyquan Thornton. You kind of want to look at him and say, we missed. Because you know why? You know what's worse? Going into next year, not and thinking you're okay at receiver because you drafted 2 last year and addressing other parts of the ball. And then going into Drake Maye's 3rd season as a pro without any friggin' reliable pass catcher on the team. And so sometimes you don't have the benefit of time. You've got to make some quick judgments and you got to see something. If you're 7 games into it, if you have a receiving core that's this uninspired, we're talking about KJ Osborne, Kayshon Boutte, who's a 6th round pick, Demario Douglas, again, who are performing above their draft status in their slot, and you go spend prime draft capital on a 2nd rounder and even a 4th rounder who might have slipped to the 4th, but might have had a 2nd or a 3rd round grade in terms of talent. They can't see the field on this team. Bad sign. Like you would rather be able to run these guys out there and live with the warts. They can't even do that because they're that right. You're doing it with Polk. I don't know for how much longer. And Baker can't get on the friggin' field. Thornton's gone. He's gone. It's over. It is what it is.
It's over.
It's over. It's been over. They tried again. We tried to buy it a little bit. He put on some muscle. He started the season as their ex, gone. He's gone. So you can't even try the other guy. That's bad. And you're not wrong. It probably is the right move from a personnel standpoint, but it's bad. Like, it's bad that that's the case.
I mean, it is. And I also don't want to play the game of like hindsight of, Polk was a terrible 2nd round pick. We only know what we knew at the time. There were no reports like,
he was a terrible 2nd round pick.
What did I say?
No, nothing. I'm sorry. I'm going to contest that a little, but go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, well, at the time, I didn't really remember a whole lot of pushback from like evaluators. Most people were saying that he was someone that wasn't appreciated enough because he had the strong hands. And one, I do also acknowledge the fact that his role in this offense is not what his role should be in an offense. Like, he's not an X, he's more of a Z. But he isn't playing that well, so they've been making.
Is that what he was talking about? There's some stuff that you guys don't know.
I think
he's talking about.
He said like limited. He's been limited. I think that's it. Like, his route tree hasn't really been something that really suits his skill set. But it's like, well, he's also not earning an opportunity to be that Z because Kayshon Boutte has been that guy. Maybe switching them helps a little more, but Kayshon Boutte's also 5'11". He's actually shorter than Ja'Lynn Polk, about as thick, but he's not as big. So you're kind of just stuck with, like, you have to put your best players in the best position to succeed, and they don't have an X. And Ja'Lynn Polk is really the only other guy they can put out there. Maybe they have to change that. I don't know. But, like, I'm trying to look at the other receivers that were taken around the same time. And honestly, let's see. We'll get this draft. What did you want to push back against, though? I'm curious.
Oh, it's not a pushback as much as what was the point at that point we were talking about? Oh, I'm sorry. At the time of Polk, look, I always do think this. There's not just one thing that you can do to be a great receiver. I was a little bit worried about Polk, and I'm not saying this to like, oh, whatever. I was a little bit worried about a guy who's a second or third option on a college team going against a bunch of defensive backs that will never whiff the NFL and still being the most alarming thing I found about Polk's numbers last year that was celebrated as a strength, I actually viewed as a bit of a weakness, which is he led college football in contested catches, which I think is bad because the people he was contested by are not NFL caliber defensive backs.
I watched a lot of those throws, though, and I will tell you, Michael Penix Jr. is a big reason for that as well. Like, remember how we were talking, like, oh, Drake Maye has somebody to help him with misses because you kept seeing that in college.
I know. I'm saying is like,
but also, yes, he was not a great separator, and that is
similarly to how I like my, quarterbacks to have some mobility, which is why the Mac Jones pick I thought was doomed to fail. Like, yeah, you can, if you're Greg Maddux, you can throw an 86-mile-an-hour fastball, but you can't. Most humans can't. If you're Tom Brady and you run a 5.4 40, that's fine because you're Tom Brady and you're the best pocket manipulator with the greatest vision and the greatest brain in the history of sports. That's a lot to ask for somebody. Unless you are those things, your ceiling is a little low. And so that's kind of the thing is, your ceiling is somewhat low if you're a guy who's a contested catch guy and can't really separate at the college level when you translate to the pros, and it's going to be extremely difficult to separate. So now and it'll be harder to make contested catches against these guys because they're also very physical and they're going to go after the ball as well. So I didn't love that because you really want playmakers, not like more playmakers that can stress that can stress the defense some. I didn't know if he fit that profile. He still could have ended up being Puka Nacua or someone like that, who plays with a greater game speed than he does on film, and he catches everything and he's a reliable target. He isn't that second part. And when you're not the first part also, yeah, it's easier to catch the ball when you're wide friggin' open, but almost every ball today, there's people around him,
I mean, when he is at X, again, I agree. Like, that is not the best place for him. But, like, I've done so many compilations on my Twitter. This guy, like, he can get open. It's not like he's got guys on his back all the time. It's that when you are at that isolated receiver spot, you're usually going up against the other team's best corners. That is not where Ja'Lynn Polk thrives. If you do have him as that more number 2 option, again, I've shown it. Like, he can create separation. It just feels like when he separates, he either doesn't get the ball or he doesn't catch it. And then in the other times, again, he's not really being put in the best position to succeed. So, like, I don't think this was some horrible – I mean, in retrospect, I think maybe we can say that because based on this whole Instagram post, like, I don't know what's going on with him. But in terms of skill set, like, he can be a good player. I think they just need to do more to at least help him out a little bit. But also, he's got to give them reason because if I'm going to put you at a position where the point is for you to block well and be aggressive at the point of attack, and I'm seeing you get blown up, I can't put you there. Kayshon Boutte's been the one who's actually putting that work in and making the tough blocks and, springing big plays. Not as much recently in the run game because that's just been bad, period. They can barely get past the line of scrimmage. But, it's a tough position because it's like, Polk, play more, and maybe you'll get more opportunities and roles that suit you better. Yeah. Because there's only so many there's only so many snaps to go around, especially when you've also got Kendrick Bourne back in the lineup.
Yeah, I want to throw something in there because, and again, I think this is heartening for a couple of different reasons here. And I don't have it to put it on the screen. I'm just going to read it to you here. Give me a second. Where is it? Drake Maye. So Drake Maye after the game was asked about Polk,
And he said, I have to get him in the game early. I think that'll help him. He's a good player for us. We need him out there, so it's kind of on me to get him going. And then he goes on to say that Polk is always asking him to watch film, throw after practice, always there. Maybe we got to do more. Whatever we're doing is not. And then he says, we just got to do more. So 2 reasons I like this. One, it's good to see that that's happening, which is behind the scenes. There's a level of preparation going in there
that we thought we were getting.
and which is good to see and good to have Maye jump to his defense. Number 2, runs in such stark you're talking about Maye as a leader. That's fucking leader shit right there. Honestly, like, you're a rookie and you're taking everything on yourself. Is how you're supposed to do it as the quarterback, because it doesn't matter if you're a rookie, the quarterback is the leader. And it runs in such stark contrast to like Aaron Rodgers last game, throwing friggin' a fellow veteran under the bus with Mike Williams and the route he didn't run and the pick and all of those things. And then defending it on the Pat McAfee show, after a couple of days to think over and say like, I was hot. I shouldn't have said that. I should just talk to Mike after. So I like that for a lot of different reasons. What's that?
Who's surprised that Aaron Rodgers?
No, I'm not surprised at all. As many good things, as few good things I have to say about Aaron Rodgers, I have that many to say about Maye. What's amazing is we're this far into the show and we have yet to actually assess Drake Maye's performance, which is weird, right? So we have to talk about it. Those first 2 drives, like, I was in love. Like, meaning like, I don't know that he could have looked any better there. I'll throw that one throw to Bourne, which hit him in the hands and should have been caught. Tad rushed because I think pressure came that he wasn't expecting there. I think that's what I think that was City So there on that situation.
City So missed his punch on Armstead.
He just missed his block. He missed completely. He didn't block anything. And that kind of unexpectedly hurried him a tad, so he put a ball maybe a tick in front of Bourne, but I still think he should have caught that. Could have been a walk-in touchdown if it was on. Other than that, near perfect drive. Had one other throw that wasn't great in the first drive, but his command, his presence, his ability to kind of manipulate the pocket, getting through reads and progressions, the touchdown throw to Hasty, which again, questionable defensive alignment there with the Jags putting whoever they had out in coverage there. But it was smart play call, smart recognition, and just a nice soft little flip when it came to an open receiver. He never forced a ball. He never did. He always went to the right read, made the smart play in those first 2 drives, I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, first 2 drives. I know it's that weird FaceTime camera thing. And I think when they got behind and things got later, he forced a ball or 2 in there. But he made some great decisions and some, amazing professional throws there. I'll say actually on the one to Polk along the sideline that he got his bell rung a little bit. I think a little more velocity. That was a little Mac-ish there. I think I'd like to see Polk plant his feet and come back to the ball a little bit more strongly rather than continuing to drift. So there was, and then he threw another soft one that could have been picked in the flat one time, so he made obviously maybe 3-4 throws you'd like to have back and a couple of decisions. But that last touchdown drive, that throw to Henry when he knows that the guy, what a professional football throw. The defender's head's not turned and he knows I can throw it right at that guy's head and just have Hunter Henry go up and get it. And then the follow-up throw on the next one, I forget who that was, to Butte down the sideline. He kind of one hand. It's just beautiful, beautiful football. And that's just stuff that you're like, oh, I remember what football looks like. And he does those things. So not only is he flashing potential, he's actually doing enough to sustain. That's a 94-yard touchdown drive, man. That's legitimate stuff to build on with a team that doesn't have a lot going for it. You can nitpick, and of course there's going to be mistakes. I think it's insane. I saw somebody tweet out there like throws like that are why you got to be worried, what it's going to be like playing Mayo. I'm like, are you nuts? Like, is there anything he's doing right now that doesn't lead you to believe that, like, this is a legit NFL quarterback who's playing well beyond expectation given the personnel limitations around him and what we were led to believe about him coming in, which is really raw, going to make some mistakes, going to be rushed, going to be sped up. He's not at all. That's the most amazing thing. Taylor, I'll take this every day. If you're going to judge a quarterback by one thing, it's not getting flustered, not the game not going too fast, not getting super sped up, and being able to get through some of your progressions. We've seen guys in year 2 look like all-stars on some plays, but unable to get off their first read. And the second they don't see it, they just get happy feet and they break the pocket. He's not doing that at all. In fact, I'd like to see him leave the pocket a little bit more. I think he's staying in there sometimes too much. I think he could step up in it. I think he could even recognize that he could go and use his legs more than he's doing it now. I can't possibly be more like over the moon with the first couple of starts relative to the bumpy road I thought he'd be facing as he entered here. I didn't expect this.
It's been the full Drake Maye experience for me, honestly. Like, it's about what I was expecting. I was like, okay, if they get him on and at least the footwork is like kind of cleaned up or something and it's a little more consistent, blah, 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 get him up to NFL speed. I figured it was going to be that, where you see the inconsistent accuracy past 2 games that's shown up. And like, because you have the wow throws, it's like what a lot of his college coaches said. It's like, okay, if he misses like a throw to the flat, he's also going to be making throws that other quarterbacks can't make point blank, period. So a lot of the Drake Maye experience is kind of forgetting some of the bad throws, unless, like, obviously if he costs you the game, maybe that'll happen. But Drake was one of the only reasons they were competitive in the game. Like you said, the throw that he made where he saw the linebacker's back turn, those are throws that we weren't even seeing Jacoby or Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi even attempt. And then the touchdown on that drive, that was my favorite, because he knew that Hunter Henry was influencing that middle linebacker and knew he would have a void over him. I was like, oh, I still have full body chills. Like, that's the kind of stuff you want to see from this kid, because it's like, I will gamble on him being better with, sometimes he does do the superhero thing where it's not even like a Josh Allen decision where you're like, I don't even know what you were thinking. It's more like, don't do that, but he doesn't usually compound those mistakes. The accuracy, some of the decision-making does need to improve, but for the most part, like you saw, he gives them life. On third down, I don't just feel like it's an automatic loss in those situations, because you saw the beginning of the game, they couldn't stop him on the money downs. And that's where, with Jacoby Brissett, so often you're like, oh, they're backed up, we have no shot. So, Drake was awesome. He didn't really play a whole lot after those first couple of drives. So it's hard to say anything.
That's the thing, is it felt incomplete, right? Because where we were headed and where we ended up feels incomplete, because at the end of the day, you kind of look at it and you're like, I guess it feels kind of underwhelming, because it was headed towards a place that you thought it would be better, but they got beat up on the time of possession game. I think, as I said, that second quarter where things got away from them and they had a couple of those wasted drives, and then Jacksonville scored on consecutive, drives there, and then they just rammed it down their throat and held onto the ball. At that point, you're down. You couldn't run anymore. The offense became predictable. You're losing people. You lost both Douglas, and then later in the game, you lost Polk. There just wasn't really much to go with there. And they still put together a drive late in the game to be able to score there. So I thought that was, again, encouraging, but you're right. It almost kind of like you took like 2 periods off where you're like, I didn't even get to see Drake. So you wanted to see more. I wanted to see more. And that's why I say these expressions frighten me a little.
Sorry, no, just also I'm thinking about, I literally, my face says what my brain is thinking. I'm sorry. But it's also pretty weird that Antonio Gibson didn't play.
Yeah, I know. Phased out. Hasty out-snapped him.
Yeah, I know. It looked like he got banged up early on, but he played a snap in the third quarter. I think he was back there for returns, I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check. But yeah, that was another weird one, because this was a game where I thought that he could actually have a pretty significant role. Oh, I guess we didn't have any returns. Yeah, maybe he was banged up. I'm not sure. I thought he could have a pretty significant role. But yeah, I'm sorry. That was just one that popped up in my head. But you said it. It feels incomplete, because one, I thought they'd go downfield more often, but also I feel like I'm going to look back and be like, oh, they really couldn't, because they had so many 3 and outs. Like, basically they scored the touchdown. I think the only first down they had before their touchdown drive after that came on a penalty. Everything else was 3 and out. So yeah, it just I can't wait to look at this just so I can have a better idea of exactly what happened, but also I know that it's just going to be a slog watching this back later.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And it was interesting just in terms of the personnel there. In terms of total snaps, I think Gibson had 8 or 9 in the first half. He finished with 10. JaMychal Hasty outsnapped him with 20. Ramondre Stevenson played 30 snaps there. And just in terms of opportunity, Hasty had five 5 targets, 2 carries. Gibson all game long, 1 target, 3 carries. Ramondre not heavily involved as well because, again, the run game, which is supposed to be a strength of this team, was nowhere to be found. And which is why, again, I say in terms of the conservative play calling, I do believe that the only path to victory or success today was to put the ball in Drake's hands and live with the good and live with the bad and let it kind of go. And they went away from it. And for 2 quarters, it's almost like the Patriots didn't touch the ball. And that's what killed you.
And also, I'm looking back just to see, because I think the reason it kind of didn't show up for Antonio Gibson, I don't think the Patriots ever even acknowledged that he was hurt. And I'm looking back, they never had a report on him. And I think didn't they keep him in on kick returns? It was him and Hasty, I feel like, every time.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. It
was Hasty.
Yeah, so that's bothering me. I don't understand why he was a kick returner still. They never acknowledged that he was injured from the team account, because all the other injuries, usually they'll say so-and-so is questionable to return whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe they were being very cautious. I don't know. That just felt like a weird part of the game plan. Not that obviously it mattered, because the run game couldn't get anything going, and the past
couple
got out of hand.
Couple updates from the locker room. Jelani Tavai on Drake Maye, Gerard Mayo's soft comments. We got to look in the mirror, understand what he's saying, and if we're okay with being soft, then some people will fall off, and the rest of us want to prove that's wrong. Step up and make sure that doesn't happen. Drake Maye also addressed it, and he said, Coach Mayo's not going to come in here and say something he hasn't said to us in the locker room. I think we're not tough. Is that right? Yeah, I think we're not tough, and he always preaches being tough. The guys know we've got to man up. You're being called out by a 22-year-old rookie in his second game who's doubling down on the tough thing. I used to joke about this regarding the Celtics in their days where pre-championship days, where there was a lot of, maybe even the last year of Brad Stevens, there was a lot of we. Okay, there's only 12 guys on the team, but 8 guys would say we. And no one would say I, it was almost like, the Spider-Man meme, like we've got to be better. And they don't mean we, they mean everybody else. But if everybody's saying we, then nobody's thinking it's them. And that the we bothers me a little. I always like people to start with I, and Hunter Henry took charge with the dumb mistakes and the penalties in the second quarter. He's like, I made a huge mistake on a false start, and I got to put that on me. I like the internal stuff to start with. And again, this is just shit that they say to the media, and it's not always well thought out. It's right after a game. Their blood is still up. I give them a lot of leeway on exactly how things are worded. But generally speaking, I think you do I got to be better, and I'm sure everyone else feels the same. And that's how I want to hear it. I hate the we, because we kind of means I'm saying we, but I don't mean me. And I don't like hearing that as much. That's my take.
And they always say the look in the mirror thing, because I know that's one of Gerard Mayo's mottos. Offensively, I honestly do feel like they usually acknowledge when they specifically make a mistake. Like Hunter Henry usually does a good job of that. Like Drake does a good job of that. Jacoby mostly did. He kind of got to the point where I think he got sick of defending himself because he knew he was in a shitty situation. But the defense, Poor Jacoby.
Every single thing about how the media had handled him and the questioning and his entire existence here was bad. It was a tough spot for him. Absolved. I agree.
Right.
Yes.
So Jacoby kind of gets a pass. The only other person I really give a pass to for doing the mirror, but also we need to be better is Godshaw, because again, I need to look at this tape specifically, but he's been one of the best run defenders in the NFL. So you can be pissed off if you're doing your job, eating double teams, making stops, and then everybody around you is failing. The one person who I'm kind of getting sick of, oh my God, and I don't want to be Mr. hot take or whatever.
Yeah, you don't have to.
I'm kind of sick of hearing Ja'Lynn Tavai say the we stuff. And he does say I need to look in the mirror, but it's like, bro, you've been one of the guys who's getting picked on this defense. And I understand he's been put in some difficult positions as well.
Yeah, and he's dropped it into
Jawan Bentley's Batman, but dude, can you maybe acknowledge that there were times where you were flying out of your gaps or teams are throwing the ball on you and you're giving up conversions? I'm kind of getting sick of hearing that from him specifically, because every week I'm looking at it and being like, dude, you're not playing particularly. He's not playing terribly. He is making plays as well. So it's not it's just lightning rod for criticism that he should be. We're Raekwon McMillan, a little closer to that middle edge where it's no, there are big plays and they're coming right at you. But I'm definitely kind of getting sick of the Tavai. Oh yeah, we need to play better. We are just bro, talk about yourself, because you are in the heart of the defense and you just got run on.
Yeah, and I think that's that's part of the thing. So again, I guess to close, it's hard to know.
Mercifully,
no, I know. To close, this was a tough one, right? And that's why there's a little bit of a ranting sort of thing going on, because it's that whole where it started, where things ended sort of thing. But that's where we're at. It's perplexing, and you don't really know what it is or why, and everyone wants to kind of settle in on it. But I think in the simplest terms, as I believe that putting in Maye at quarterback would elevate some people around him, and that's his job. I also believe, like, in order to elevate the play of the people around you, I think a lot is going to fall on the coaching, which is why you're going to point the finger there too, which is hey, this is the ingredients we have. Make a meal that's palatable. Like, do the best that you can here, right? That's it. It's like, I don't expect 5-star stuff here, but you got to find a way to go back to Cincinnati week 1 professional football. Have to find a way to get there.
And like, I understand that it's not always going to be linear. I understand that some parts of the team aren't going to be vulnerable, but like, getting blown out every week is never acceptable. So at some point, like, I need to see certain players getting better. Maybe the scheme starts, like, I don't know what it is. I feel like there's little signs of growth, and then it's just something else that's so catastrophically bad, it undercuts the progress they're making. So, like, stop beating yourselves, minimize these negative plays that are just costing you these games, and just, like, let's see some professional football again. I understand they're not going to be perfect. Yeah. I just want to see some consistency or some
and that was it.
Just growth.
And that's the thing is, if you look at the two things we celebrated at all from this team this season, it's recently Drake Maye's surprisingly competent play for someone coming in to the situation that he's involved in, and how ready the team looked to play in week 1 against Cincinnati. And again, coach, quarterback, it begins there and it filters down to everybody else. I think that's where it's got to go. So I think, in terms of the looking in the mirror, Mayo and the coaching staff probably has to do a little bit as well and figure out how to avoid looking like this. Instead of just saying, we got to be better and we are soft, make them not be, like do the thing that do it. And that's it.
Really, anyway, it's a mentality at the end of the day. It's like, I know Belichick's draft strategies. It's like, if you want to be a tough team, draft tough players, like, it literally is a mentality. It's what you are or you're not. And I know they're trying to go through that process of weeding out the guys who aren't, but like, I don't know, man. I don't want to say figure out faster, because that sounds like I'm kind of just being dismissive, but like, something's not doing it. So
yeah, and that's it. And so it can't go on much longer, but I also now no longer see a way out. And that's, I guess, the most depressing place is, what the funniest thing to me, Taylor, was, if I was a Jags fan, I would be sending every single first quarter tweet from Patriots fans over to freezing cold takes.
Dude, I tweeted out after they got the it was like really, I think it was the last penalty they got before they started just killing the Pats, and I was like, oh man, the Jags. I knew the Jags.
I know you did.
I didn't know it was that bad. I was like, should I go back and delete it? I was like, no,
the overall tone of all tweets were, I was starting to get annoyed, because I'm like, guys, shitting on the Jags right now is taking away credit from what we're seeing here, which is Drake Maye looked like a phenomenal quarterback. So, like, don't lessen what's going on here by crapping on the Jags. And that's what was the tone of it. Was Patriots fans not only were confident, they were pitying the other team. And oh my God, did that age poorly.
It was just the penalties that the Jags were getting early on. That it wasn't the Patriots were doing well. It was like
and the coverage on,
and then compounding it. I was like, geez, guys. And then the Patriots were like, hold my beer, or whatever they drink in London, tea.
Oh my God, they drink a lot of beer, ale, but yes, they do. Everything about it was,
honestly, give me a couple hours.
Everything about it was funny. So that's it. So we're good. Thank you guys for hanging. I know, we're well into that 1 o'clock window. So go check out your favorite teams, and what's going on there, and keep it here. We'll have Taylor and Mike's written analysis on CLNSmedia.com, and a lot more coming up on our YouTube channel, and some other kind of thin slices from some of the stuff we saw today. Also, if you want to check out Prize Picks, get involved. You've got a slate of NFL games going on here. #1 fantasy sports app. Pick more or less on 2 of your favorite players. Play $5, get $50 instantly into your account. For new users, use that promo code CLNS and check that out. And if you want to get in on some early Patriots tickets for next week, make sure to download that Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS, $20 off. Go in, watch Aaron Rodgers. I hate saying this because I am a, lose for the draft pick sort of guy, only because I think it's actually super important that the Patriots, I did it again. I think it's the wind horse. I think it's super important for the Patriots to get a very high pick to be able to trade it down so they can address multiple needs. And I think that's really important because premium positions like offensive tackle and stud outside wide receiver really can only be gotten in the early part to, early to mid part of the first round, not exclusively, but that's where you're finding your guys. If you want to address those positions, that's the place you want to do it. But I really want them to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Jets next week. And I think that's going to be a fun game. So if you want to go check it out in person, it's going to be a good atmosphere and a good vibe. I think even though people are feeling depressed now, it still is the Jets and it still is Aaron Rodgers, and people are going to come fired up for this one. So go check it out. Go to that Game Time app. Get your tickets now. Plenty of good seats available at reasonable prices. Use the code CLNS and get $20. Terms do apply. So check that out if you will. Once again, the Patriots lose. Pretty depressing game, 32-16 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Everything started out and looked great, and then it just went kaput from there. Looked bad in all three phases after that 10-0 start. And we're back to the drawing board, sadly. So Taylor Kyle's going to kind of take a look at things. He'll have his analysis coming up shortly. As we said, keep it here. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Notified, hit, turn on your notifications. That way you'll know when we're going live. And, Taylor and Mike will be back with more stuff tomorrow with Patriots Daily, and they'll really get granular with what went down in this loss. Patriots now fall to 1-6. And I guess if this makes you feel better, I'll let you feel better. Here's the Tankathon ads. The odds. Oh, my goodness.
Yay.
Look at what's going on.
Yay, first round pick again.
We're number one. We're number one.
I'm so excited.
Anyway, take care, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching. Is there